Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. This is episode 198, and I am your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're pretty excited for this. It's our second episode of the holiday theme that we've been doing all month. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, we decided to start with Hanukkah because Hanukkah was actually going through the first few days of December this year. It's sort of a floating holiday, but that's beside the point. Today we decided to continue our theme by going around the world. But I guess before we get too far along into that whole discussion, dear, how are you?
I'm doing well. Nothing really, I guess, to report on this end. We are celebrating a very happy birthday, a Film Bud's birthday today. It's not me, so I wonder who it could be.
I don't know either. No, yeah, thank you. It is my birthday. I turned 29 today. As of recording, you'll be listening to this the day after my birthday. But no, yeah, thank you. It's a lot of fun. I did a post on Twitter earlier about how, like I met Henry when I was, like 23 or so. And then, like, at the first time I came on the show was around 25 to 26. And now here I am, approaching 30, 29 now. And I'm hosting the show, and things are wildly different than when I first met him and when I first came on the show. So it's been a fun journey.
Yes.
So today we were originally, I do have to make one little clarification. Originally the plan was that we would be doing 3 movies. We were going to be doing 8 Women, which is a French film, Tokyo Godfathers, which is an anime, and then Rare Exports, which is a Finnish film. Sadly, 8 Women did not get shipped in time, and I could have found, I'm sure, like, illicit means of watching it, but I didn't feel up to doing that sort of search to find 8 Women. So sadly, 8 Women will not be joining us in today's episode, which is international Christmas films, holiday films. I thought, if the whole idea was to do a whole bunch of alternative options, then I wanted to go and take us around the world. And so we're still going to be going and doing Japan and Finland, but sadly, I guess because the French don't produce this movie on disc a lot, we won't be getting 8 Women in this episode, so I apologize.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get it soon and maybe throw it on to next week's.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, I guess, this episode's a little bit fun. I decided to go and, again, on Twitter, I just kind of mentioned that we were watching Tokyo Godfathers, and I asked if anyone had seen it, and we ended up getting, a fun little guest because of that question. A user reached out, who is someone that I know from college as well, who Henry knows from college as well, Austin Craver, and he asked if he could come on. And so I guess, honestly, without any further ado, we should jump into our first film that we're reviewing, which is 2003's Tokyo Godfathers, and we have a clip, so take a listen.
この子は神様がくださったクリスマスプレゼント。私たちの子供よ。
So that was our clip of 2003's Tokyo Godfathers. It is directed by Satoshi Kon, and its 3 principal cast members are Toru Imori, Yoshiaki Umegaki, and Aya Okamoto. And the premise is, on Christmas Eve, 3 homeless people living on the streets of Tokyo discover a newborn baby among the trash and set out to find its parents. To come on and talk with us about this one, we actually had a request to come on. and I had to honor it because he's one of the foremost anime and manga experts that I know. And so we're joined today by a very special guest host of the Third Impact podcast, Austin Craver.
Well, hey, Paul. I would not call it a request so much as a mandate, a demand, like a shameless self-insert. But yes, my name is Austin. I am the producer and co-host of the Third Impact Anime podcast, where we talk about Japanese cartoons from all eras, all time periods. Except we don't talk about seasonal anime because that is a dark black hole of never being able to escape the deluge of content. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for allowing me to come on and talk about Tokyo Godfathers, one of my favorite films from one of my favorite directors, not just anime directors, but directors in general.
Oh wow, that's very high praise.
For sure. I mean, I think
rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, I think Satoshi Kon deserves it. I mean, his output is not the biggest in the world, but it's some of the most, influential, anime films and really Japanese films of all time, I would say.
Nice. So, and like it's all about quantity over quality, really, or
Sure, yeah.
quality over quantity. If
Mhm.
you go and put out like just endless amounts of drivel, you might be well known for a time, but like it's never going to hold up as long as putting out like a really solid, filmography that has a lot of care and thought put into it.
Yeah, there's certainly a few anime directors I can think of that are definitely exactly what you described, but I won't go into that. We'll save that for another time.
No, that sounds fair. So how did you come across Tokyo Godfathers?
Well, I didn't come across Tokyo Godfathers itself directly. I think my entryway to discovering this film was discovering Satoshi Kon and his oeuvre in the first place. So back in high school, I got really into exploring more classic anime, meaning like films and TV shows from like the 80s and 90s. So I went on Amazon at the time and got like your classic anime starter pack. I got Ghost in the Shell. I got Akira, and another film that I got was also Satoshi Kon's 2006 film, I believe, Paprika. And I watched all of those in that time period, and were just blown away by all three of them. But Paprika, at the time, I thought Paprika was like my favorite one. So of course I had to dive deeper into Satoshi Kon's sort of library of works. So that led me to stuff like Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, and probably I don't my memory's a little bit fuzzy. I think Tokyo Godfathers is the one I watched. I didn't watch it as part of like the first crop. I think I watched it after watching more of his serious, like um more, I don't know, thriller oriented content. So watching Tokyo Godfathers after Perfect Blue, for example, is just like wild whiplash, super big whiplash. Um, but yeah, I watched it a number of years ago on the old Sony DVD that they put out, which didn't have an English dub track on it. So I'm really glad that G Kids was able to re-release it in HD with a brand new English dub. So and I've loved it ever since I saw it a number of years ago.
No, that's awesome. It's rare that I get to sit and listen to someone talk, and just have such great expert knowledge, just so
Oh,
readily
please.
available. So that little breakdown was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, nothing to add,
Well, we'll just flip the script. How did you guys discover Tokyo Godfathers? I'm really curious to know how people that are like, now, correct me if I'm wrong, who are not like people who are not super into anime, how they discover anime titles. So I'm really more curious to see how you guys found out about it.
Well, she's probably more into anime than I am. She's seen a few more and has probably dived a little bit further into some of them than I have.
No, yeah, I mean, I've done like the popular series. I've watched some of Naruto, but most of Naruto Shippuden.
I've done the oh gosh, what is it called? Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I did also the other one as well, but I like Brotherhood more.
Yep, as you
And I
do.
just
Yeah.
and it just kind of was like the content that I just, everything was new and interesting, and I always really enjoyed watching animes because unlike more Western cartoons, they always like pushed the limits and did interesting concepts and interesting ideas and were always fully committed to them. And I always just really enjoyed like trying to go down the rabbit hole of finding new ones that I liked. And obviously there are, ones that you like more than others and ones that you wish that were longer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and then some you were like, man, if only they would stop putting all these filler episodes in and get to the point.
Yep.
But honestly, like I haven't really gotten into just singular movies before, so this was a really fun dive into a less familiar area of anime for me.
Yeah. Well, I think you pointed out something pretty crucial. I think a lot of people, their entryway to anime is more on the television end. Like they watch things from like Toonami back in the day, or even Toonami now because it's still running, or series that are on streaming services or what have you. But movies don't really get as much publicity as your big shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, like you said, Full Metal, Demon Slayer, et cetera, so there's like this whole world of anime film that's not really as explored as sort of the TV stuff.
No, yeah, I mean, from an outside, of the anime bubble, I would say perspective, the only real anime movies that really, heard talked about, growing up and even in film school oftentimes were Miyazaki and his whole, filmography. And that was really kind of the extent of like anime films that I knew people were actively talking about at the time.
Can't say I know who this Miyazaki guy is. Sounds pretty obscure to me.
Yeah. And so I didn't explicitly set out to have so much animation in our holiday episode, or our holiday month. But I went and decided to look up different Christmas films, and I was trying to come up with different ideas for Christmas content and holiday content. And there was a list, and I normally don't go off of just like, Rotten Tomatoes. It was a Rotten Tomatoes list that was like, here are the things that have the highest scores, that hit this certain criteria field. And so it was like, here's a list of the movies that are the highest rated international Christmas films. And so that's actually where both Eight Femmes, if we end up being able to do that one, and or if we've already done it, depending on how this goes. But that's where I saw Eight Femmes and also Tokyo Godfathers. And honestly, once I saw those two, I kind of just ignored the rest of the list. I was like, this sounds way too interesting to pass up. And they only had like a part of the synopsis, like it finished out at like an ellipses, so you had to click and go and finish reading it. And so I went over and I finished reading the full synopsis, and I was like, no, this definitely sounds like the exact kind of thing that I want to go and introduce people to. And so it was really just as easy as that. And I haven't really had the chance to do a deep dive into much more of his work or anything like that. But I was just like, if I have to have an international film, I think that this is definitely one that I want. And that's how I ended up landing on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you were gonna ask me, I would say you nailed it for sure, because Tokyo Godfathers, I think is probably one of those films. Well, I guess let me back up. So it seems like the more that people get exposed to Tokyo Godfathers, the more it becomes sort of a staple of like the Christmas canon. Like I could envision a world easily where like Tokyo Godfathers ends up on like essential Christmas films to watch sort of lists that are all over the place. But I think one of the things that sort of stood in the way of that for a number of years until very recently, within the last 2 or 3, is that there was no English dub available for it until the recent G-Kids and Shout Factory license of the film, where they produced a brand new dub for it. And I think, I mean, it's just a fact of the matter that most of the time, general audiences are more likely to watch something if it's in their native language. So I think asking people to watch something that is only available in Japanese is not as accessible as something that has both options. So I think now that both exist and the film is, in print again, people can start, finding it and exploring it and watching it, just like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just as easy as renting it on Amazon and just hitting play. And so it was, going into what we thought of it, I absolutely had a blast with this movie. I read the synopsis and I was like, this sounds good. And then I started watching it and I was like, this is a fucking Christmas movie. Like, this is, in all of the best ways, without any of the sort of Western schmaltz of Christmas movies that oftentimes just sort of lingers sour in my mouth. This movie was just so delightful and super fun, and I had a blast with it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
honestly.
There's no scene where they have to go buy a honey-baked ham and it gets run over in the street. That's my Christmas with the Cranks reference for this episode.
But no, and so like I thought that it was super well done. I thought that the characters were so instantly interesting and likable. The moment that you first meet Jin and Hana, I was like, these guys, they're great. They're kooky, they're fun. And the teenager, much like in many anime stories, I feel is probably one of the more annoying parts of the cast. But even she has this really lovely arc and this lovely journey. And it has it. I think a Christmas movie or a holiday movie essentially has to have themes of family. Usually, there is always at least one sort of miracle of some kind,
Mm-hmm.
and it also has to have, I think, an earnestness to it. It has to really want to actually get at what those ideas are and not really just sort of drape them around.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that this movie really managed to sort of check all of those lists for me. And even though there are Christmas miracles sort of scattered throughout, I never thought that it felt unearned or cheap.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think in a way the film sort of indicates that it's aware of the schmaltziness of Christmas and tries to subvert it a little bit. And the scene that I'm specifically thinking of is whenever the street kids beat up Jin and he's just like laying in the alleyway and like is like resigned to his fate. He was just like, take me now, I'm about to die. And then this very stereotypical like Christmas angel comes up and says, oh gosh, what does she say? It's like, would you like me to use my magic or would you like an ambulance? And he asks for an ambulance, and it's just revealed that this is just a lady in a costume, not an actual angel. I thought that was a really, not only is it a really funny scene and a really funny setup and payoff, but it's just like kind of poking fun at sort of traditional, you said it best yourself, Christmas schmaltziness. By sort of being a little bit irreverent, but also making for a fairly sweet scene, because she does end up rescuing him, and that's awfully nice of her to do.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, I think that this movie just has a lovely wholesomeness to it, and has everything that kind of you need from that feeling of Christmas, that togetherness and the magic of the holiday is wrapped all throughout this movie. Even when these characters end up getting pulled down what seems to be the wrong direction, at the end of that is their miracle. And that's kind of how, in Christianity, how God works. And he works in mysterious ways. You never go down the path that you're expecting to go down until you reap the benefit of the trial. And I think that's kind of what this movie is.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that would be very, I mean, I can't really speak to this because I'm not Japanese myself and didn't grow up there, not steeped in the culture, but a lot of the history of Christmas as we know it in Japan is sort of, it's like an imported aesthetic. Like it's
Mhm.
kind of, it's absent of the religious sort of perspective that comes along in more Western cultures. I mean, certainly in the West, we do plenty of the, the standard commercialization of Christmas, but in Japan, it's like basically all that. So to see Satoshi Kon sort of explore, where does this aesthetic tradition really come from? Like, what are the philosophical and maybe religious and maybe spiritual roots behind, the idea of what Christmas is? To see him explore that through this Japanese lens, I think is just a really fascinating thing to see because it does have those like Christmas miracle types of things in it, but it seems like he really does understand what that means. And I think that that speaks to, something that's pretty consistent throughout a lot of his work is his deep understanding of like human beings and the way that we interact with each other and the way that we interact with our world. Um, and There were more thoughts there, but they've a Christmas wind has whisked them away.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that one of the other things that helps, I think, make the meanings and the lessons of this movie land particularly well is also the fact that, unlike so much Western fare and Western holiday fare, it doesn't focus on a middle class to an upper middle class, even in a wealthy family like the McAllisters, so many of
Mm.
the stuff that we have focuses on this kind of socioeconomic bracket from here and up. And here we get to go and all of these lessons that they learn and all of these things that they gain, as you said, sort of through trial, and also remembering, that forgiveness can happen and these sorts of things. All of the lessons land more, I think, because the film does choose to focus on people on the fringe and the
Hmm.
socioeconomically disadvantaged and things like that. And so I think that that also helps really make so much of the themes and lessons really land and stick.
Hmm. Yeah, I think and it's kind of a subversion of what we expect from, the unhoused in our world. It's just like these are people that they are in need of help. They are in need of services. And while that's certainly true, I think it's a mistake to assume that they don't also have something to offer you in return. I mean, you as in like society, people at large, because I mean, they are people and everyone has something to offer. And I
Mhm.
think that this film, by showing that these characters are in very dire straits and they do make, um, bad choices from time to time, and a lot of their sort of life the things that happened in their lives that were both in control and beyond their control sort of contributed to the situation that they're in. They still have something to offer the world. When so it's important not to look away. And I think that the film shows that in a world like the one that Tokyo Godfathers inhabits, which is supposed to be our world, there is a temptation to just, look away from the homeless. They don't really have anything to offer us. They can't do anything for us. But this film is really about the exact opposite of that, which is, I think, very poignant and very in that Christmas vibe.
No,
Because
yeah, and like,
it's not like the Holy Family wasn't also homeless for a little bit.
yes, yes, exactly. Going out and needing a place, and people pushing them away because they didn't have what, I guess the society deemed needed at that time. No, I think that this movie is just so beautiful. And even these people get to have something that they didn't have before and are willing to give as much as they can to help this child find their home, willing to risk their lives for this baby who probably, won't remember this day. And
Hmm.
it's just absolutely lovely because you kind of forget that that's the whole reason behind the holidays is to give what you can, not, to go above and beyond in extravagance, because it doesn't matter. You're missing the point of it being something that is truly truly grounding, you know, bringing people together, creating family, even when these people aren't, you know, related. They've still lived their lives together, lived time together, and willing to sacrifice anything and all for the people that they love.
No, absolutely. No, very, very well said. Charity and goodwill toward man and all that kind of thing.
Sounds like a load of humbug to me.
No, very, very well said, dear. Also, as a sort of a bit of a gear shift, the movie is also animated excellently as well. It's also lovely to watch just on a purely visual level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've never seen. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please. I could ramble forever. I want to. You go for it, please.
I was going to say that I've never seen the original Japanese version of it, but I also thought that the English dub, I thought that they did a great job really melding nicely with the, the animation that was already there.
So, and yeah, Studio Madhouse, they started in the 1970s as a spin-off of the Mushi production, and they were founded by some really huge icons of anime, both yesterday and today, Masao Maruyama and Osamu Dezaki, and a bunch of other people. I actually got to meet Maruyama, who's a currently active producer. He's probably about 1,000 years old at this point. He was at Animazement a few years ago promoting some of the work that he was doing, and I got him to autograph my copy of Tokyo Godfathers, so I'm very, very, very proud to have that. He has a very iconic glasses and mustache combo, so he always draws that as part of his autograph, which is pretty cool. But that being said, Madhouse is pretty legendary in the industry. They've done stuff like the 90s hyper-violent, wild animation projects like Ninja Scroll, Wicked City. They did Perfect Blue. They worked on basically everything Satoshi Kon ever made. So they're very established, and they were back in that period of time as well. And the absolute attention to detail and craftsmanship that comes through with both the animation of the characters and the scenery and the settings that all the work that they put into those, it really shines. And they talked a little bit about in the featurette the idea of, well, they wanted the settings of the film to be actual real places in Tokyo that would look like what you would see on the street. But the benefit of using animation as opposed to live action is that you can exaggerate certain features to make it seem a little bit more larger than life. Like you can play with compositing, you can play with lighting of specific elements of the street. They talked about how difficult it was to composite and make trash bags look good in animation, because you see a lot of garbage bags in this movie. I mean, as you can imagine. And I think that it's really interesting to see, what animation can provide, even when you're doing something that is like quote unquote realist, like this film kind of is. It's still like magical realism, and I think that there's a benefit of using animation to convey those ideas that you can't really get in live action. Maybe you could if you worked really, really hard, but it's just something that animation uniquely provides.
No, absolutely. Because, for an example, mild spoilers, when Hana jumps after the baby and, is holding onto the big like sheet, of curtain, and the wind comes through and blows into the air, that would probably look, especially in today's time, like absolute shit in live action.
So true.
So no, I really appreciate the dedication and work that they put into this, because it does have this very even the world itself, like you said, has this kind of magical realism to it, and it draws you in, very thoroughly, and the city feels just as much involved in the story as anyone else.
Yeah, like they go to convenience stores, they go to the hospital, and you see all of these different things that are part of real life living in Tokyo in the early 2000s. You see stressed out businessmen walking around everywhere. It just feels really real. but also
No,
has that
absolutely.
twinkle, that added detail. And I do think it's interesting the fact that they use Tokyo Tower specifically as like a Star of Bethlehem kind of motif, where it's like constantly just there, it's just in the background.
Hmm.
Hmm.
No, absolutely. You said that this was apparently specifically structurally calling on another film. You said before we started recording, you had mentioned that you
Yeah,
had done some research. So can you explain a little bit of that?
I can in a vague sense because I will admit that I have not actually seen this film, but apparently Satoshi Kon, the general idea for Tokyo Godfathers came from a John Ford movie with John Wayne. Did they ever make anything separate? I don't know, probably not. Called The Three Godfathers, which is like a Western version of this kind of story. I think they also have a baby. And he just wanted to reinterpret sort of that idea into this film. Um, I mean, I think that's about the extent of it, but Satoshi Kon definitely seems to be the type of guy that will take like a tiny seed of an idea and just like go buck wild with it. Um, it kind of reminds me of another very iconic creator, Osamu Tezuka, who you guys might know as like the creator of Astro Boy and
Okay.
Blackjack and other really iconic characters like that. He wrote a manga called Metropolis. The classic 1920s black and white German film Metropolis.
Hmm.
Yeah, he never actually watched that movie, but he saw a poster for it, and he was like, "I want to make a manga based on this poster." And I think up until the day he died, he never actually watched the movie. So like, I don't know what made me think of that, but Kon and Tezuka seem to be on that similar wavelength of taking, this tiny inspiration and just going nuts with it.
Hey, I love that. And clearly, he didn't need to ever watch it.
Yeah. I mean, he might have. He probably did. He was kind of a film buff, but oh, you meant Metropolis. Never mind.
Yes.
Never mind. Pretend I didn't say anything.
But also, that speaks to when we were doing our episode on Japanese film and we did, Sword of Doom and Tampopo, that speaks, and, you were talking about the import of Christmas itself into Japan. And I think that, um, the inclusion of John Ford, it goes into this very obvious and creators going and taking seeds of ideas and, the
Hmm.
import of American and European content and things like that into Japan during, the late 40s and the 50s really just dramatically, altered the cinematic trajectory on a certain level. And it now is this wonderful cycle of, now you have American creators who are regularly inspired by anime and
Hmm.
and that sort of thing, wanting to work some of that into film now. And so I think that is one of the lovely things about film, and is such a repeated theme in some of, especially the historical things that we've gone back and looked at, is this seeing of where people have, the ancestral sort of nature of film.
Hmm.
Yeah.
This um, constant influencing of each other across both time and geography.
Hmm.
Well, we
Yeah,
all have something
absolutely.
different to bring.
Hmm. Yeah, like in that vein, I don't want to get too off topic, but in that vein, I recently watched Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, which is basically his samurai retelling of Macbeth. So it's really interesting to see the sort of quintessential sort of Western play from Shakespeare reinterpreted in a Japanese context and see it pulled off so like beautifully, and everything works, everything fits together. It really shows the sort of the transcultural nature of a story like Macbeth, because there's always going to be insane madmen with insane wives, like no matter where you go. Uh, so it is neat. You're right.
Yeah. um Austin, do you have any final thoughts on Tokyo Godfathers?
Well, I feel like there's so many different rabbit holes you can go into when it comes to this film. I mean, we could talk briefly about sort of the unique character of Hana in this film, being a lead character in a film that is a trans woman. Um, and I think there has been some like generalized, maybe not controversy necessarily, but some like questions around like the portrayal of Hana in the films, because in her original form in the early 2000s she was portrayed as more of a just like a drag queen, and the guy that they got to voice Hana, it's like that was his profession. They got an actual Japanese drag performance person to play her character. But I think as time has gone along, people have reinterpreted the character as more of a trans character than just simply a drag queen, and that has been reflected in the more recent localization where they got a trans actress to play Hana, to portray that character, and they reinterpreted the character in that way. So I think that there's a lot to be said there. A good friend of mine, Sully, who's really into studying LGBT culture and history from both a Western and from a Japanese perspective. He could probably have more to say about that, because I know that there are some crossovers with the way that Hana is portrayed and the Okama stereotype, which is like, I don't want to speak out of term, but it's like it's like more of a derogatory term for like a trans person or a drag queen or something like that. I don't know 100% the definition, but there have been, just like in the West, there have been conversations about, reclamation and reinterpretation of these identities and things like that. And I think the conversation with Tokyo Godfathers is just sort of ongoing. It's interesting to see how that continues to reinvent itself in conversations across from when the film came out to today. And I think that makes the film kind of good breeding ground for conversations and on representation and characterization and everything like that.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because the first synopsis that I read did describe it as an alcoholic, a runaway teenager, and a drag queen.
Right.
But as we started watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is a trans character. I was like, the synopsis might be a little bit outdated, but like if you're actually really watching, I think the content of the story, it definitely comes across as far more of a trans woman's identity than as a drag performance.
Right.
She's
Exactly.
living in that reality daily.
Mhm.
It's not just on stage.
No, yeah, and I think that's at least from what I've learned of from performing myself, is that the drag persona is something that you put on to go onto stage, and it's a character. Whereas for Hana, this is her every day. This is her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's not turning this off for anybody, and she very, very fervently denies any claims of being a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think you guys said it really well. It's like this is her reality. It's not a costume that she puts on and takes off at the end of the day. And I think the reinterpretation to understand the nuances of Hana's character that have always been there, I think are really important to sort of a more modern, less maybe knee-jerk understanding of the way that these people feel about themselves and the way that they interact with the world and their own identity.
No, absolutely. So Austin, if you had to give Tokyo Godfathers a rating out of 5, what would you give it?
I mean, I'm not super picky, really. I mean, I could get into decimal points, but I'll go ahead and give it a 5. It's a great film. I would give all of Satoshi Kon's films probably a 5. But I love it. It's great. The cast of characters are wonderful. We could spend so much more time talking about it, but I know you guys have other films to get to. But it's great. Jin is an awesome character. Hana's an awesome character. Miyuki likes to spit on people, so she's awesome. So yeah, great film. You got to check it out. And it's not too long either. Short films are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's an hour 32, so it's 92 minutes of your time, and it's very well worth it, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Dear, what would you give Tokyo Godfathers out of 5?
Oh, 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. 5 out of 5 for me as well. It was
Excellent.
so refreshing, especially after our last week's episode was 8 Crazy Nights, and that was just disastrous. So,
Oh my gosh. I haven't watched that film since I was a kid, and I probably shouldn't have been watching that film whenever I was a kid.
probably not, but I also don't recommend you watch it now.
It didn't get better with
Noted.
this, I promise you.
Noted.
But no, that was a really great conversation. Austin, would you like to shamelessly plug, anything, where people can find you, when your show posts, that sort of thing?
Sure, absolutely. Again, my name is Austin. I am the producer and co-host of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. You can find us most easily over on our website, which is thirdimpactanime.com. We call ourselves a bi-weekly podcast, but I think that's more of an allegation than a hard truth. We try and stick to that. We don't always. But yeah, you can find us on Twitter at TI_anime. And the most recent episode that we've put out at the time of this recording was our Halloween special on Junji Ito's Uzumaki, which is a very classic horror manga. Actually, the first manga we've ever covered on the podcast, which is pretty crazy. But yep, that's me, and we do our podcast over there, and it's a lot of fun. And thank you guys so much for letting me come on.
Yeah, honestly, thank you for answering the call. When I put out on Twitter, I was like, has anyone seen it? And honestly, when you said that you wanted to come on, I was like, no, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be great.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad. Anytime you guys talk about anime or whatever, consider me there.
Yeah, deal. I'll hold you to that.
Cool.
Well, that's it for Tokyo Godfathers. We're now going to travel from Japan all the way over to Finland with our next film from 2010 called Rare Exports. And as always, we have a clip, so take a listen.
It's the most magical time of the year, when traditions are honored and the youngest among us still believe in the spirit of the season.
That was a clip for Rare Exports, which came out in 2010. The director is Jalmari Helander, and the premise is in the depths of the Korvatunturi Mountains, 486 meters deep, lies the closest ever guarded secret of Christmas. The time has come to dig it up. This Christmas, everyone will believe in Santa Claus. And it stars Jorma Tomila, Oni Tomila, and Peter Jacobi. And those are it's actually, I think, a father and son who play father and son in the movie. And so that's kind of a weird synopsis for me. I'm not sure that really does what it kind of gets to what this movie is about, but also not. Yeah, I'm not sure it really sells people on what this movie is.
I really enjoy this Christmas, everyone will believe in Santa Claus. Yeah, they will.
I feel like this description is making this movie sound very, almost tamer, I would say, in some ways than the actual movie it is. Dear, what did you think of... Well, first off, I will explain how we found this movie.
Yes.
So, originally, I had done the search, as I mentioned to Austin, for 2 movies, and I found them. Then I was going and I was talking with a neighbor of mine, Mark Spagnolo, who is a dear friend. I've known Mark since I was a kid. And I told him about what we were doing on the podcast, and he was like, "Oh, I've got a movie for you. Let me go and make sure that I have the right title and that I have the file and everything, but I've got a movie for you." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he was like, "It's a Finnish film called Rare Exports, and that's pretty much all I'm going to tell you. It's out there, and I think you'll love it." And that was pretty much all of the lead up that we got for it. And so we sat down and kind of, again, like with Tampopo, where it was like, you know, someone really brought us something, so I'm going to include it. And so we decided to sit down and watch it. And now I'll throw it off to you. Dear, what did you think of Rare Exports?
I loved this movie. This is, gosh, man. Foreign Christmas movies for the win. This movie was nuts. I loved it. The kid is adorable. He definitely kind of reminds me of, like, you know, the Kevin McAllister kind of child, you know, very, very handy kid, knows his stuff. And, like, it's just a fun ride, and it really kind of takes what you're expecting of, like, a Santa Claus story and really, really flips it, and I think it's so creative. What did you think?
No, I completely agree. The movie starts out literally just, like, starting. You know, there is really not a lot of build-up. It's an hour and 24-minute movie, and so when it first got started, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, you know, and, like, but the story really moves pretty quickly, and as we were going, I just kept on being like, you know, this is just getting better and better and better, because it's so fun and it's so inventive, and I think it does I think it has such an honest energy, you know. It's so well crafted, it's really well acted, and so, like, for me, it was just sort of this really big surprise, you know, and since we didn't really know anything of the plot at all, as we started it out, you know, it starts out with this excavation with this almost Indiana Jones-esque research scientist dude, like, finally getting to the excavation site. And this movie is essentially, to do a better job describing it, I think, than the plot synopsis does, it's essentially kind of like a Krampus Spielberg kind of story, in the sense that it has, you know, this real dramatic element to it, this supernatural element to it that obviously also comes with the Krampus elements. But at the core of it is ultimately a really touching father and son story. Yeah.
No, and you definitely get to see their relationship. They become closer as the movie goes on through this crazy adventure story. And I think that, you know, it's just super touching, but then also, like, kick ass.
Yeah, because, okay, so we'll get into sort of spoilers now a little bit. Because honestly, like, I don't think that we can really talk too much more about the movie without kind of, I want people to kind of watch it as Babe in the Woods as we did. So mild spoilers, I guess, follow. You know, I won't get to the end bit, but essentially, they've unearthed evil Santa. You find out that, like, long ago, like, a group of, you know, indigenous people of that land trapped Santa, who was evil and monstrously huge, in a lake, and then they take that bit of ice that he's captured in, and they drop him 400 meters down in this mountain, and create this huge burial mound to forever and always keep evil Santa and his helpers locked away. And it's bananas. It's so fun, you know, because, like, they build it so naturally, and the movie it's like I said, it's only 124 minutes, but, like, every minute is used effectively in this movie. You know what I mean? And that's really, really impressive for me. And you can kind of see where it's going on a certain level, but, like, they finally capture this old guy, right, that they think is Santa. And pretty much once they capture the old guy, you're constantly like, okay, so that's evil Santa, all right, and you're, like, expecting it to go one way, and the movie regularly diverts to what you're not expecting quite as much.
Oh yeah, no, they capture this, you know, very, very classic looking Santa, except, minus, I guess, all of what we think of Santa. He's really skinny, but he's very old, long silver beard, and there's just something off about him. And so you're like, oh yeah, this is totally evil Santa. Everybody's there. They've like gone out hunting at one point for deer, or some
reindeer,
reindeer, and all of the reindeer have been like slaughtered. And they're like, oh, wolves have clearly done this. And like the whole time while looking at this skinny Santa, I was like, how did he eat all of those reindeer? Something's off about this weird, crazy old man.
And it isn't even really like they ate them. It's just like that you come across a field of like 40 just like butchered animals, like not even really thoroughly eaten all the way. It's not like it's a bunch of bones and remains. It's kind of like that scene in the first Jurassic World movie where Claire and Owen come across the like dying brachiosaur, and then they walk over the hill, and it's like the field of all the dead sauropods that have just been murdered by the Indominus, like not even for hunting purposes, And so it's like, what is this? And it has also, this very early on, it has the great characterization of like the father and the son, and the dad is like this very stoic man, who wants his son to grow up, but he doesn't know necessarily how he's supposed to do this sort of stuff, and he's not very good at it, and the mother is gone, which again I think also goes back to like that Spielberg kind of thing. It's on a certain level a coming of age story for the young kid, and his father learning that like his son has more value, than it seems like his son has from his perspective. Super fun movie.
Oh yeah, had a blast watching this movie, honestly. It really felt like I was watching it from like the right country with the right people, to have this kind of really like old lore Santa story kind of thing, because we all assume that from what we've heard that like Santa was like probably from these gosh, where even are we in the Northern Lights kind of area, because he lives in like the North Pole and stuff. Like it just feels appropriate that these people are going to be like the first affected by Santa coming back and now stealing children, and it's bananas. Honestly, couldn't recommend this movie enough. It's my new favorite holiday movie.
Yeah, because it's again, as we talked about with Austin, it's this really fun take on Christmas, and that's why I liked the Krampus movie, which again has that similar kind of concept, right, of this kid, smacking right into the real root of the tradition. And I like that both of these films, have this kind of, let's go back to the old myth of it. We have scrubbed clean so many of the old fairy tales that, like some of the meaning of them themselves have been diluted by the cleaner version of the story. And so I love that both of these go back and look at the roots of Christmas lore, and examining it and where it came from, and that a lot of those old fairy tale type stories also came with a real dark side.
And honestly, I think that they just did a really good job of making this movie feel creepy when it needed to feel creepy, because I feel like so often in movies they show too much of like the action, so there were times when like we got the guys with guns, and we'd like pan the camera over to another, and you'd just hear like a yoink and a scream, and then like you'd see his gun fall, and we never saw what happened to him, but he's dead now.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of a slow boil. It's a lot of atmosphere, and then once you get to the big climactic finale, it's in that sense a little bit of the pacing of like Hot Fuzz, right? There isn't really that much action, or or all that much exciting things happening all of the time. We go along, and then suddenly it's a huge finale. And so it makes it feel really earned, and it works really, really well. And yeah, it's a really lovely, fun movie. And then the whole big, this is big spoilers. So the whole big thing at the end is that this isn't actually Santa. This is just one of Santa's helpers. And there are actually like 100 or more of these weird, naked old men running around, and these are all of the people who have been kind of creating our image of Santa, of this old bearded man, because that's the person that people see checking in on them and leaving gifts and things like that. And it turns out that Santa is this massive, monstrous creature that is still encased in a block of ice. And so even our finale isn't really them versus this big creature. It's them versus this, like, mindless horde of Santa's helpers.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. And the huge Santa has like gigantic horns, very very Krampus-esque, and we like never get to see him, which is such a bummer. But like, it's you don't even need it, honestly. If I was telling Paul when we watched it, if this movie had been made in America, there would have been a huge like boss battle fight with these ragtag group of people versus this giant, God, like 10-story tall Santa or something. It would have just been too much. And I think that this movie just knows exactly where it wants to sit. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of the movie was the beginning with this old man who's like very much like a John Hammond kind of person. Honestly, this movie kind of reminded me a lot of the original Jurassic Park, but unearthing something dangerous that was long gone for personal gain. And he hands out this like rule list to all of the workers that are like, basically all of the rules for Santa. No
for being
cursing,
nice, not naughty.
No cursing, no smoking. He basically knew exactly what he was doing, and none of the guys take it seriously. But one of my favorites is just him handing out this like list of like, you gotta be nice, not naughty, while you're digging up Santa's, remains. Loved it.
Yeah, and again, I think it's almost impossible to look at this and not feel at least the influence of, I think especially particularly Spielberg. But that's something that, again, has, especially as we've been doing these international looks, I hammer it home, again in the last one, so I apologize that this is repetitious, but I truly enjoy seeing iconography and ideas and themes and the work of a filmmaker so clearly echoed and influencing, a director all the way over in Finland to make this wacky Christmas movie that I think is just so fun.
No, yeah, and with a holiday like Christmas, since there's so many movies about the holiday, it is so refreshing to watch a completely different interpretation of it. It's got all of the holiday isms in it without, them being shoved down your throat with figgy pudding and and all that jazz, just so good. Honestly, like let's do more like this. It was just like a nice palate cleanser. It was a great roller coaster ride to watch this movie.
Yeah, and for me, we started the holiday month with 8 Crazy Nights that definitely put like a real damper, I think, for me on how pumped I was about the theme for the month, and I was like, ugh, maybe. Honestly, I was thinking for a little bit afterwards, I was like, maybe I overdid, maybe I overcommitted, like maybe I'll want to jump out of this theme and just walk it back. But the international episode really has made me be like, nah, this was a good choice. Like, this has been a lot of fun. And you can also, again, see that across these two films, again, I think that they really land all of the things that a Christmas movie needs, because ultimately they get their miracle at the end, right? Their miracle that saves their farm, kind of a thing. And it's about family at the end of it all, and it's about togetherness, and a feeling of, forgiveness and of wanting to do the right thing. And I think that both Tokyo Godfathers and Rare Exports both really, really nailed that for me.
Yeah, it's this underdog story. Both of them are, finding value in society's least expected places. With Tokyo Godfathers, it's finding value in this group of homeless people who just want to do right by this child, and Rare Exports is finding value in this child's opinion and validating his thoughts, and his plan at the end is the thing that saves the day. And it's great. All of these adults think that they know what they're talking about, and you just need to sit down and be a kid and we'll do all the adulting. And at the end of the day, he steps up and is like, no guys, I know exactly what we need to do. And they all just shut up and listen basically at this point, because they're so in awe of the fact that this child has been right the entire time. He's been screaming from the rooftops basically that Santa's real, and nobody wants to believe him. And then when they see this horrifying monster at the end, they're like, crap, what else do you know that I don't know? I'm going to sit down and let you take care of this a little bit. Absolutely great.
Yeah, and I think you don't need much. Yeah, I think it's a sliding scale of how much or how little your movie needs, but I think that all Christmas movies typically have some amount of magical realism happening in them. Unless you're doing just, really plate standard sort of Hallmark stuff. I really enjoy also that sense of wonder, because I think that is also supposed to be a part of it. And with both Tokyo Godfathers and with this, you also have the ever-important element, not of all Christmas films, but of some Christmas films, of the child's perspective. Because we do often think so much about, kids coming down and opening presents and, how magical a time it is for children. And so I think that it's interesting that two of these films also included, very core a child perspective, which is a part of a lot of other holiday films that I enjoy. Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, right? His kid is definitely a sort of core perspective in that movie. Krampus, we're following the kid, it's about the family, but our core beating heart of the movie is this kid spurned by bad actors on Christmas, No, absolute blast. Really, really enjoyed the experience. I thought that it was delightful.
Oh yeah, it may not be the right movie for everybody, but if you're okay with a little action in your Christmas movie,
A little weird.
Yeah, no, totally recommend this movie for sure to anybody who is willing to watch it.
Dear, if you had to give Rare Exports a score, what would you give it?
Oh, 5 all the way.
No, yeah, 5 as well. And maybe that's being overly generous, but it was just such a blast and such a breath of fresh air, and I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and give, honestly, both of these movies a watch. They're both great.
Yes, completely. And they're not what you're expecting from a holiday movie, and I think that that's the best thing about them. They've got all of the holiday isms without it feeling like it should be on Hallmark for free every holiday on repeat.
No, absolutely. Well, I guess we can move on to... Actually, we haven't really been watching much of anything outside of... I was about to be like, we could move on to what we've been watching. Oh, here's one thing that we did recently watch. Stand By Me. Let me tell you, a little micro review here real quickly. Incredible film. I'm so disappointed that we don't talk about Rob Reiner as an incredible director more, because he did a phenomenal job with this film. And this is probably the only like non-Film Butts related thing that we've watched lately. I think it's tremendous. I think it's a great little movie.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, there's such a rare opportunity for child actors to really shine, and River Phoenix just blows this whole movie out of the water. I can't recommend it enough. It's a beautiful, beautiful coming of age story about these four boys, and if you haven't watched it, I would recommend it, honestly.
For sure. There isn't really much media news. You know, there's been a lot of trailers getting dropped lately. We're kind of building into Oscar season. West Side Story just came out. It's getting rave reviews. I haven't caught any of the new trailers that have dropped. I still haven't seen the Across the Spider-Verse trailer, so... but a little bit of a slow news period right now, honestly. Not terribly much happening. The IATSE and several other unions have recently started working on trying to get Congress to reinstate a tax break for production crews and that sort of thing. So we'll see how that goes. But honestly, I guess not terribly much new to report, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the year is coming, so things are starting to slow down as they usually do as people get, into the holiday spirit and shop till they drop, as the saying goes.
No, yeah. I guess I tell you what, since it's my birthday, I'll let y'all know some famous people that I share a birthday with. I share a birthday, December 9th, with the late Red Fox. I also share a birthday with Beau Bridges, who turned 80 today. Good for Beau.
Nice.
Jeff just had a birthday a few days ago. I share a birthday with convicted actor Felicity Huffman, most recently known for bribing people to get her daughter into college.
Because that's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, forget your lessons. Don't pass a single class. Just have mommy and daddy pay for it.
Mm-hmm, that's right. I share a birthday with two late greats. The late Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas's father, who only died last year at like the age of 106 or something like that. I also share a birthday with Margaret Hamilton, who was the Wicked Witch of the West many, many years ago in The Wizard of Oz. And the last two big ones, one of my personal favorite actors, John Malkovich, turned 68 today. Happy birthday to dear John. And last but absolutely never least in any fucking room, turning 87 today, Dame Judi Dench.
Ah, delightful.
Happy birthday to Dame Judi.
Happy birthday to all December 9th babies.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're a listener with a December 9th birthday, give yourself a little pat on the back, a little lap around the room, and put on Birthday by the Beatles.
Do it. You won't be disappointed.
It's a blast. I guess that's all that we have time for. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners, dear, before we go?
Stay warm, and a very happy holidays to all out there, regardless of what you celebrate. I hope that it is the best that it can be.
For sure. Be sure to come back next week. We're going to be doing Criminal Christmas. I finally figured out what I want to call it. Hopefully it will include 8 women. If not, it will definitely be including LA Confidential and probably In Bruges. So that one might actually be a threefer. So yeah, be sure to tune in next week for that. If you haven't, go back and listen to last week's episode. Follow us on all of our socials. Send us an email at thefilmbudspodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, keep warm, keep your head up. This time of year can also sometimes be hard for people. And, if you're one of those people, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So keep on listening. Have a good one, guys, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.